Welcome to Healing Generations, a podcast creating a dialogue uplifting the importance of healing, strengthening, and supporting our communities, and that addresses the disparities and inequities in communities of color. Healing Generations is brought to you by the Healing Generations Institute, a collaborative initiative of the National Compadres Network and the Brotherhood of Elders. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on our new releases.
Welcome to Healing Generations podcast. This is Deborah Luis Camarillo, and I'm excited to be here with Maestra Susie as we host another wonderful adventure, introducing our audience to another maestra that's out there working in our community. And I just want to thank all the listeners that are out there. I know we have listeners from all over the world, and we're so glad that you have chosen to join us and to be with us here today. And as I say, there's going to be something said here in this heart-to-heart conversation that is waiting for your ears. And so I'm really excited to get on this podcast, and especially because our guest, I know our guest very well, and it's exciting to have been part of her journey and watching her grow. And so for me, it's really an added blessing to be here today. Maestra Susie, how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Maestra. Thank you for asking. I'm enjoying this beautiful sunshine here in Los Angeles, California. I know it's a little bit hot, but I always love that energy of the sun. So I'm giving thanks for that beautiful tatasol this morning. And I don't know, how is it where you're at?
You know, I'm a little bit jealous because I've got a sweater on. It's pretty cold up here in the Bay today, but I understand, it's good for our plants and birds, to have that little chill in the wind. So I can't complain. But I'm excited. So, let's just jump right into it and get on with our podcast today and share with all those listening today.
Gracias, Maestra. Thank you. Yes, I'm really excited with our maestra today that we're so blessed to have with us, Sarahi Ovalle, a maestra who has been doing this work for many, many years in the community, just always ready to be there and serve in any way that she can. She has been working with the Latino Commission for nearly 20 years now. Wow, what a beautiful accomplishment. And she's now currently the site manager for Nuevo Comienzo in the Central Valley of California. She's a very passionate community servant, and she just loves to motivate and inspire people to discover their true sacred self and to help them reach their full potential. She provides compassionate, culture-based guidance and a lot of encouragement to help others to reconnect with their sacred selves. She takes a lot of pride in being a Mexican woman, a wife, a mother of 2 beautiful children, and her 4 small little perritos, her little doggies that bring her much, much healing and love unconditionally like they always do. She loves cooking Mexican food. She loves reading books, and she's also been blessed to be raised in a very musical family. She has that special gift, the medicina of música. Plays piano, she plays bass, she plays guitar. She's just so multifaceted, multi-talented, and we're just so honored to have you here, Maestra Sarahi, and looking forward to our plática today. Just wondering if we could start maybe just sharing a little bit from your perspective about yourself, about your background, your family upbringing, whatever you feel comfortable with, and what has helped you on your journey this far.
Thank you, Maestras. It brings me so much joy to be here with you guys today. I feel very honored to be here with each one of you guys. Maestra Deb, my maestra. Just to start off with, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you. And I'll tell you a little bit more when I introduce myself. My name is Sarahi Ovalle Guerrero, daughter of Margarita Guerrero Solis and Tomás Ovalle Gutierrez. My mother is from Zacatecas, from a ranchito near Fresnillo. My dad is from Nuevo León. They got married, and they took this adventure of doing the missionary work in El Estado de Mexico. And I was born over there a month before my time. And I was born sirviendo, along with my parents. And since day one, since I can remember, being serving that community with my mother, she was very passionate about serving her community. She was a pastor in Ciudad Juarez, Chihuahua, Mexico, with my dad, and she served the community for many, many years. So I always had that example of serving. I also was very passionate about the community. I got married really young, and I had my firstborn at 17. And it's one of the reasons why I'm very passionate about the work that we do, because I was one of those teens that didn't have a lot of a connection, especially the connection with myself, with my sacred self and my sacred purpose. And at 22, I had my second daughter, and about several years, plus 20 years, we moved to the Bay Area. It was a little difficult to leave my cultura and my family back in Mexico. And since then, I was very fortunate to get to know Maestra Debra Camarillo. I started attending her dad's church back in 2003. He was a pastor. I was welcome. I felt loved. I felt acceptance there. And I started going there, and I never thought that would change my life. As I shared, I was never connected to my true purpose, my true self, and never knew that was the visit to the church. It was going to change my life, and it was going to turn everything around. I was very fortunate to meet Maestra Debra Camarillo and started working at the Latino Commission as a receptionist. After one day, I remember I was doing this work, estaba ahí de acomedida helping someone with the computer, and then she looked at me and she's like, I thought you didn't know anything about computers. I was like, well, I just know a little bit. And she's like, well, I need to talk to you. So she brought me into her office and she offered me this other position, and everything started from there. I think I lasted like 2 weeks as a receptionist. And then after that, I started doing billing, working with like contract license, and I don't even know how I was doing all of that. And let me tell you, I didn't speak English back then, so I have no idea how I did it. But somehow I did it. And then after that, she offered us the opportunity to come to the Central Valley. It was quite a change, moving from the Bay, beautiful Bay, to the Central Valley. If you're not familiar with the Central Valley in California, it's very different. It's a rural community. It's hot. It's cold. The stores are really far. And, gracias a Dios, since then, we moved in 2005. We've been working here with that community and very passionate about serving this community. It was an easy move. It was very difficult. And remember having a conversation with Maestra Deb when she offered. She's like, are you sure? And, me being a people pleaser, I was like, yeah. But I guess she knew more than what I knew about myself. And, she's like, this is a job, I have plans for you, this is not it, you can have your own house, because in the Bay Area, not even dream about having a house, making, the minimum wage. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, okay, and she's like, yeah, and you can continue growing. And since then, 2005, being here, gracias a Dios, 2 years later, we were able to purchase a house. I'm very thankful for being able to provide a home for my kids. And yeah, so I guess I said enough about me.
It's kind of funny, right? Thinking back of those times, right? And I remember that conversation, being under the avocado trees and really going, okay, so are you really ready to do this, right? Are you really ready? And I think sometimes understanding that when we embark on some of these journeys, right, there's a cost to be paid. It's like, are we sure? Because, anything that is worth having, there's a sacrifice, especially when we're doing community work, right? That we have to give of ourselves sometimes more than we even think, and having those real conversations. And I remember, sharing with you that, yes, you could have whatever you put your mind to in that way, right? Of course, we know we work towards that. But in reminding, when you just reminded me of that, I was just thinking about the many young women that I know that you have worked with and where you have been the inspiration, to helping them to think past how we limit ourselves, right? Of that we don't feel that we actually can go after our dreams, and especially because I know of the program where you worked with young teen moms, and sometimes life feels like this is it. Now I'm pregnant. I'm a teen mom. I'm not going to finish my school. And now what am I going to do? And sometimes, or a lot of the times, the option is, well, just my boyfriend, because I feel like that's all I have. And then the disappointments when that doesn't work out, and having to be that inspiration, for these young women to say, keep going. Can you share a little bit about your experience, that you have had with these young women?
Yes, thank you, Maestra. It has been a beautiful journey working with this community. As I said, when I started working in the community, it was, more like a general work with the moms, in meeting the needs of the immediate needs, such as food, clothing, helping translating paperwork and stuff. And we started seeing this need of work for teen moms. At that time, there was a very, very big need in this community. Several girls pregnant, and especially, being pregnant from like older guys. And it was a very difficult time where there was no programs here in this community. And we took the challenge of start working with those young women and start learning, whatever was happening in their lives, it was affecting, the decisions that they were making. Like Maestro Deb said, not believing in themselves, not believing that they're able to, make it to graduate high school, to go to college and have, a better outcome in their lives. And it has been una enseñanza for me, especially, as I said, I was a young mom, didn't have any of these opportunities, and being able to see the potential in their lives. I knew they can do it. I know, mija, you can do it. I know there's a better future for you, because, I somehow was able to see it, through them. And I started reflecting on that brought so much healing also into my life, because I didn't believe in myself. I didn't believe that I was able to do it. School was really difficult for me when I was growing up. And I think I diagnosed myself with ADHD or something, because, I couldn't focus when I was in school, and it was really difficult. And after I had a, like, somehow some power or a higher power than me, helped me to make it in life somehow, like telling me, hey, you're not that stupid. Hey, you know how to play drums, you know how to play the bass. I guess you're not that stupid, and fighting with those voices inside my head. And I was able to see these young women, con este potencial that you can do it, that you can make it. And it has, as I said, it has been a great journey working all these years with this women. We have such a beautiful mujeres that have graduated from our program, that now they're in university. Some of them already, building their own families, having their own kids. And it's beautiful to see that everything started with I believe in myself, because someone told me that I can do it, because someone told me that I was sacred, that I'm able to do whatever I put it my mind into, and that's the journey that we embrace in.
Thank you, Maestra. Very beautiful, beautiful. I'm reflecting on what you were saying in the beginning. I can't imagine, all the things that you experienced, day in and day out. I'm sure there's some days was just a emotional roller coaster, but there's also a lot of blessings, especially when you see that healing taking place and the youth just transforming before your eyes, and mujeres gaining their confidence back and their sense of self. Being the devoted community servant that you are, as well as I do, that the service that we provide for our communities takes a lot of passion. It's a devotion to Creator, the ancestors. It's a deep commitment. I know the inspiration for the type of the work that we do is usually inspired by a lot of our past experiences and the pain that we've had to endure personally. I'd just like to ask you if you'd be willing to share with us. I know we both have a lot of things in common as far as the health issues and stuff that we struggle with physically. I'm wondering if you could be willing to share some of the lessons that maybe you have learned about perseverance and endurance, the things that you've learned that have helped you to have the strength to get up every day and keep on going, especially on those days that we both know, and all of us that do this work, on those days where we just feel we cannot get up and keep going.
Well, definitely, it has been a journey in this life, doing this work, not only because you're not just the person that comes and do the work and serves. You're a mother. I'm a mother. I'm a wife. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. And on top of all those things, I have been dealing with my health for some time now. And this is so funny. Today marks 5 years. I had a really bad car accident, September 8th. And I didn't realize until we started doing this recording today. It has been a crazy roller coaster and journey after that car accident. Never thought I was going to be able to make it. At the beginning, it seemed like nothing was wrong. I made it safe, gracias a Dios. And a couple of months later, everything started evolving. My health started going down the road. And because of the accident, I had 2 strokes and several other issues. I was several times in the hospital. I was several times in the ICU, not knowing what was going to happen with my life. 2019 was the worst year where I experienced all of that. And it took a lot of courage to get out of that. I thought, this is it. This is it. Never thought my life was going to end like this. I feel like dying almost every day. I was heavily medicated for several months. Because of the accident, I also had what they thought it was epileptic seizures. And I just didn't see, la luz al final del camino. I didn't see the light at the end of the tunnel. And I remember, still having the support of the people, that I love, and the people that, that love me. But still, I had my dark days, my dark nights, where I asked myself this question many times, like, mejor me muero. Like, I don't want to live like this. I don't want to live in pain. My brain wasn't functioning the same. So I was almost an entire year of work. And unfortunately, the medicine failed me. I wasn't getting any answers. And it was a time to turn to God. And I said, like, what do I do now? Now is the time to practice what I preach, to really believe in what I preach. You're sacred, you have a sacred purpose, you can make it, you can go through it. And I was having several panic attacks a day. As I said, it was a struggle to stop the medication. It took me a lot of months to leave the medication behind and struggle with all the side effects of the medication as well. And I had, bendito sea Dios, I had a lot of support from my maestra, from my work, from my job. I remember the doctor used to ask me when I used to go to the appointments, "They haven't fired you yet? You still working?" And I'll be, yeah, I still have my job. And I remember one time Master Deb told me this. She's like, "Mija, your job is waiting for you. Like, aquí está tu trabajo." And that gave me so much hope that I was, I had something, not only my family, but of course my family was my immediate, reason to get better. But, knowing that I need to go back and serve my community and continue this work. And I said, I don't think I made it this far, for no reason. And gracias a Dios, in May of 2020, I took the last pill. And as I said, it was a struggle. And it was just remembering, reconnecting with who I really was. Because once you don't have, what makes you keep going every day, like you don't have to go to work, you don't have to do this, then what? What's left is just you and you. And I was able to realize that I was really scared to look inside of me, and I never understood that I had to go through all of that to get healing, and I've been purposely working in my healing, my and therapy since 2010. But I guess there were some more layers that I needed to go and look inside of me. And something that we often talk about this, it's when we're doing this type of work, si queremos que trabaje, if we want this work to actually work, we need to walk the teachings, like Maestra Deb always says. Tenemos que caminar lo que enseñamos. And sometimes we think we do, but then when you have those deep challenges that are really hard to get out, how am I gonna go and tell this girl that wants to kill herself that she doesn't think there's hope? How am I gonna go tell her, "Hey, mija, sí se puede. You can do this," if I can even do it on my own? So it took several of therapy, the CBT and the somatic experience therapy, the music therapy, for me to be here with you today. It hasn't been easy. It has been very difficult. And I cannot tell you that it was only that. It was all the medicina, las plantas, my animalitos, my family, my support system, my maestra, that has been a big blessing in my life. And all these girls that are expecting you to be well, and come back and do the work. And I'm just very thankful to be here today. If I look back, I don't even know how I made it, because it's just one day at a time. Maestra Del always tells me this: if you can only make it to the shower, and it can be something very simple for, if you're hearing this, like, what do you mean if you can only make it to the shower? It's deep, because make it to the shower, from the bed to the shower, there's a long way, of pain, of maybe depression, maybe anxiety, maybe I cannot do this. But once you're there, once you feel the water cleansing you, it just transforms, and you get the energy from Mother Earth, from the water, que el agua es vida, and I have to remind myself of all those things so I can continue doing this work. And I know if you have gone through the stuff that I have gone through, not necessarily an accident, maybe an illness, maybe depression, maybe anxiety, there's hope. You can do it. I always said, if I did it, you can do. I never thought I was gonna have an hour without having a panic attack, without thinking that I was gonna die, without thinking that my heart was gonna come out of my chest. And I'm here still. I don't know if I answered the question that you asked me, but this has been my experience with my health. So thank you.
Thank you, Mija. I really appreciate you being so willing to share such personal things with all of us. There's so many lessons in your palabras and what you've shared. And I know there's a lot of people that are going to really take it in and benefit from the sacrifice that you had to endure. But it's beautiful to see that you're not giving up. You're still doing the work and still believing, and that you're just going forward. You're going forward, and you're sharing these teachings with so many people that come in your path. Just ask Creator and ancestors to bless you for your devotion. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yes, yes, yes. And I agree, Maestra. It's so important. And thank you, Sarahi, for sharing that. Because sometimes I think there's this illusion, right? The illusion that if you're doing this work, and if you're out there, a leader in the community, or a maestro or maestra in the community, that somehow we're exempt from things happening to us. That somehow you're not going to have these struggles. And the reality is that we're no different. We're human beings like everybody else, and we all have our struggles. And it could be struggling with addiction. It could be struggling with alcoholism. It could be struggling, with that self-hatred, with depression, there's so many struggles that we confront. And as leaders or, people that are out in the community, serving the community, it doesn't mean that we're exempt. We have the same struggles too. And I really appreciate that honesty and transparency, because I think it offers hope. Because I'm sure there's some listeners right now that thought, oh my God, I thought I was the only one that didn't want to wake up in the morning. I thought I was the only one that had a panic attack, or that looked at that shower like, oh my God, that thing seems like 100 miles away, and so thank you for, just sharing that part of your life, because I know that that's giving hope right now to some of our listeners out there. And the other part that I really appreciate that you said was connecting back to those elements, right? So you talked about the water. And sometimes, we forget that there's medicine all around us, and water being one of it, especially for mujeres. Water is very important, not only for the hydration of our body, right? But in that aspect of the limpieza, right? That soothing, cleansing element that water brings to us, knowing that our waters are impacted all the time, right? Our bodies are 70+% of water, and it gets engaged, with the moon and with the energies and things like that. And so understanding that something that might seem so simple, which is taking a shower, how much medicine, how much healing that can bring to us, something as simple as that. So thank you for sharing that. As I was hearing you, and you opened up proudly about, being a Mexican woman, a Latina Mexican woman. And I know that there's so much of that cultura that flows in you. Can you share some of the ways that you encourage that reconnecting back to ourselves, right? Embracing the legacy from where we come from, and how you implement that with some of your youth? Because I know that sometimes, I know working with you, sometimes it's like, I don't want to identify with that, because it's like, I get made fun of or whatever. And so there, I don't want to, identify as whatever it is that I am. And so, can you share a little bit, the things that you do to help your youth reconnect to where they come from?
Yes, I grew up in the border with in Ciudad Juarez in El Paso, Texas, and I didn't know I was very disconnected from my own culture. When I came to work at the Latino Commission and I started hearing all these beautiful things about our cultura that I didn't know, because we have or we had this other idea of, America or USA, and all these like great things, like the best thing in the world is speak English, live in USA and like wear the American clothes, whatever. And that all of that was very ingrained in my head. Growing up in that community I was growing, there was a lot of poor people, and I remember people from USA used to come in and deliver food, and clothing. So I had this idea of like wonderful, USA, and that helped more to the disconnection of my cultura and feeling proud and feeling connected to who I really was. And as I said, learning at the Latino Commission, I remember hearing these things from, Maestra Deb, when she was talking about the proud of knowing who you are, where you're coming from. That was very new for me, and I was like, wow, it sounds so beautiful. And I started like wanting to learn more and reconnect with who I really was. And when we started doing the work, funny thing, in 2009 or 10, I believe, we were at this event with the Fresno Regional Foundation at that time, and Hector Sanchez was giving a presentation about La Cultura Cura, and I remember hearing the same message that I had already heard here with Maestra Deb a few years back. And I think it was when I started embracing my cultura even more and learn about your sacred, learning about, connecting with your roots, Maestro Jerry talking about, your grandma's spirit, your grandma's medicine, and feel accepted by your grandma, like, que te aceptaba todo, con el pañal sucio, and giving you the love no matter what, that brought so much healing to my life. And when we started teaching La Cultura Cura more purposely in our programs, because we were already teaching about, cultura and stuff, and going to those trainings, El Joven Noble and stuff, I was able to connect even more and help our students, helping the youth that we serve to reconnect and feel proud of being brown, feel proud of your parents working in the fields and doing their best to, bring the food. Not anybody can endure the heat out there. Not anybody can do all the hard work and only with the only reason to put food in your table, and help them, to embrace who they are, embrace the traditions, embrace the remedios caseros, embrace all what your culture has to offer. And it has been a very interesting journey teaching about cultura, because at one point I didn't feel connected to my own cultura, and now understanding that if you know where you're coming from, you're gonna know where you're going, and I always give this example to the students. It's like the GPS. Now we cannot live without the GPS, and in order for the GPS to take you to whatever place you want in the world, you need to tell the GPS where you are. You need to allow the GPS to get your location, where you're coming from. And I think that's so important for our youth to remember who they are. And I say remember, like in the enseñanzas we always learn, we were already connected at one point. We just need to reconnect with those beautiful teachings of our cultura, and reminding them that they're sacred. And instead of focusing on your flaws, focusing on, I took the wrong route, I became pregnant, I was using drugs, I was locked up, focus in the fact that you're sacred and you have a sacred purpose that has bring so much healing to our community.
Thank you, Maestra Sarahi. As you're talking, I'm just reflecting. I had the beautiful, beautiful gift of being able to travel and visit Nuevo Comienzo. And I got to witness for myself all the beautiful young girls, the youth that you work with, as well as all your coworkers. Whenever I hear that word, Nuevo Comienzo, I have to be honest with you, I feel this feeling of when you come home.
Mm.
Because when I walked in there, I was just greeted with so much love and so a beautiful welcoming, and just felt so honored. And as I was there, during the time that I was there, I was watching you, and I was watching the young girls that you work with and how they respond to you, how they look up to you. And, for me, some of the best teachers for me were not always the teachers that sat and talked with me, but more watching their example. And I see by you just being who you are, and like you said earlier, can't just know the teachings, you have to live the teachings, you have to practice them. You know your teachings very well, and it reflected in these girls. And as I interacted with the girls during the days that I was there, all those teachings were just coming to the surface. It was very obvious that you have taught them well. It was even more obvious that Maestra Deb has taught you, and Maria and all your coworkers. It was just like a dance. It was so beautiful to just see everybody feeling so happy, so grounded, so safe. I'm wondering if you could share with our audience, what are some of those things that you do to create those safe spaces for all those that come to you? Because I could tell that these girls are probably the one highlight of their day is to get out of school and run to Nuevo Comienzo and be there in that safe place. And it wouldn't surprise me if there's many days where they don't want to go home. They want to stay there and just enjoy all that love and all that light and the beautiful teachings, and just being embraced and accepted and seen for who they are, just as they are. How do you do that? How do you create that? Because it's so powerful.
We often hear about other organizations that do this work, and I said, like, it doesn't work, it didn't work for me, it's not working, we have to go and do something else, because this work, it's too indigenous, it's to this and to that, and it's not working. And one of the main things that I believe it has worked in our program in Nuevo Comienzo is to create a safe environment and a safe place for the youth that walk through our doors. For many years, we only had two curriculums, Los Guerreros for males and Adelante Latina for the young girls, and our Círculo Comunitario, and that was all we had. And we didn't have a program for LGBTQ. We didn't have all these other curriculums, to help the students with all these needs, right? But we learn that by accepting them by who they are, meeting them where they are, and create a safe environment for them, that was more than enough. That was something that we have been learning throughout the years, to create a safe environment by welcoming them, by purposely or with an intention, create this a safe place and love them and accept them. I think that's so important, and connect with them. And I said this is important because you go to many places where you're not acknowledged, when you don't feel welcome, when you don't even feel like they know you're there. And that's what our youth is used to, in places where they don't feel accepted, they don't feel the love, they don't feel the connection. And one of the things that I believe it has been also very helpful, and I know Maestra Deb intentionally did it for us to live in the community, and people that live in the community, work with the community, where they see you, on the weekend at the store, where they see you walking on the streets and like, oh, maestra, ¿cómo está? How are you? Oh, my. And you ask them, how are you? How's your daughter? How's, your perrito, and that connection, I think it's so important. And as I said, with the intención, something that I think it's so important, because as I shared earlier, there's gonna be those days where we're gonna feel like not ourselves, or we're gonna, and if we're honest and we're transparent, we're gonna have those days where we're gonna come and we're not gonna feel like, I can be the best person today for my students. And we have that accountability where I can come and say, like, you know what, I'm not having a good day. Let's burn some sage. Let's burn some copal. And let's meditate. Let's maybe not talk. Maybe just una limpia and breathe the beautiful smell of sage and just get ready. Because they know, your students know when you don't feel well. What's wrong, miss? You didn't put your makeup today. What happened? And they just know. So if we don't take care of ourselves first in that way, and taking care of our cargas and taking care of the things that we're dealing with, then we're gonna dump it all in them, and instead of them feeling welcome and say, oh, I'm glad to be here, they're gonna feel like, ¿qué le pasó a esta? Right? Like, what's wrong with her face? And nothing is perfect, of course. This didn't happen from one day to another. This has been a practice of several years, when we have learned that accountability, and we have learned that lo que hacemos aquí, it has a purpose, an effect for good or for bad to the people that we served. And I think that's so important, that we continue those practices, so it can be effective, and it can carry the intention that we intended to have.
Yes.
It might start at, well, our fault, but also for people, to acknowledge people, to accept people as they are, to make them feel loved, make them feel wanted and seen. It's very effective. I vouch for you. Thank you.
Yes, no doubt about that. Yeah, it would be great to wake up every morning just so excited, right? But there are those days that we wake up and it's like, geez, not feeling the best. Yeah. But what do we do with that? Yes, that's an important lesson. How do we manage that, right? So that it doesn't fall on someone else in a negative way. I'm sure that throughout the years, with all the different, parents and youth that you have worked with, you have come across many stories, many stories. I mean, I can think of, some that I treasure, the experiences where we, worked together side by side, and the beautiful lives that we were able to cross paths with, right? And so, there's always those young people that just get in our heart, right? You'll never forget their stories. And so I'm just wondering, can you share maybe a couple of those stories that have impacted you, and share the way that it's impacted you with our audience?
Yes, and I feel good about sharing this memory, or this person that I carry, because sometimes when we have to talk about our historias with the funders, is very different than we have to talk about those success stories, where they went to UCLA, and they're like doing so great out there. And when I said this, that I feel confident sharing about this, is it's because we also have those stories where we have kids, they barely made it. They're barely made it to school, where they're not doing so great in school, where it's not safe at home, where I don't know how to connect with anybody in a healthy way. And I have this story very close to my heart of this student that used to come a Los Guerreros program, and I remember seeing him very quiet, not talking to his peers, or he seemed very to himself. You will talk to them. I have this thing that and they already know that when they come out, I'll always ask this, and I got this from my Dev. This is not my idea, but so tell me one good thing about the day, one bad thing, right? And they already know. They look at me like, oh yeah, my bad day was that I had a math test, and my good thing is I'm here. They already know. And I remember trying to connect with this kid, and no, like he just looked at me like, why do you care, right? And it was quite difficult. And that day we had a training, and I remember talking about this specific person, and Lucas's Maestra's Dev brother. He told me they just need to know that someone really cares for them. And I'm like, well, we already do that, right? But then his words like got really stuck with me, and I was like, what I'm not doing to connect with this kid. And he came later, and I remember I was able to see that he had a cut on his knee that he's been playing, I don't know what, and remember Lucas's words. And I remember I asked him like, hey, what happened there? He was like, nothing. And I'm like, well, it looks like something happened in there. Me dejas curarte? Can I clean the wound? And he looked at me in the eye for the first time, and he's like, oh yeah. And lo sentamos. We went to the clinic across the street to get things that we didn't have. We cleaned his wound and told him, you can come back tomorrow so I can take care of that again. And he looked at me again, and he came back the next day, and after, until that wound was healed. But what I noticed in the kid was, maybe the second day, he started sharing his story. He had a very broken home. His dad was a drug addict. He was in and out of jail. He didn't know about his mom. He had a very, very difficult life. And sometimes we forget that those stories are happening in the homes of the kids that we work with. And that brought me a huge lesson. Not all the needs are going to look the same. Not all the kids need the attention in the same way. There's going to be those kids specifically that need attention in a very different way. And if we're not open to see, if we're not open to hear, what the message that creator has to tell you, so how can we serve them better? And Lucas was the instrument that day, when he told me that, like it got stuck in my head. And I, when I saw the opportunity of care for this kid, I was able to do it. And we had him for a while. He used to come back to our círculos comunitarios with the parents as well. He was around for a while, and for sure that kid knew that he had a safe place where to come. And I always carry that kid in my heart. I wish I can tell you he went to this university. I wish I can tell you all these great things about him. But all I can tell you is that he had a safe place where to come, where he was cared for, where he was loved, where he was accepted. And that's one of the ones that I have, one of the many that I have in my heart.
Gracias. Oh, that's such a beautiful story. It just makes me reflect on how many children are out there. I know I was one of them way back in the day. I would have just loved to have a safe space. It's priceless, and we don't even know. We're just doing what we do sometimes, and we don't realize, the effect that it has on those that we work with and how much it's so needed. I know there are people that have come into my life when I just thought I was going to give up. A young teenager. The Creator was so generous to put these people in my path at the right time, and little did they know, like they were like saving my life that day. They were just doing their job, but to me, it was like, I could have made another decision today to do something not so good, but because you saw me, because you were willing to sit and listen and just be with me, accept me. I'm here another day. Well, God bless you for that, mija. You've shared so much wisdom already, and you've just given so many beautiful examples and consejos. I just can't let you go without just asking you personally. You'd be willing to share some advice with us and those that are listening. Maybe a couple of consejos, a couple of dichos from your grandma, or a couple of things that even you would make sure that your own children, you would want to leave them with knowing. That advice that would be very helpful in terms of their own healing and hope. And a couple of consejos that you can leave us with. We'd be so grateful.
Well, I'm here, and I'm the fruto of someone that believed in me, someone that gave me an opportunity. And if I can give an advice is whatever you have received, give back. And I'm very passionate about you come to our doors, you learn how are you going to give back to the community? How are you going to give back to those people around you? I had the blessing to have my beautiful grandma, Emilia Guerrero, very powerful mujer. Got married really young. She had 10 kids, and she was just the best. And I remember a lot of lessons from her. One of the things, como like Maestra Susie said, sometimes not necessarily what we say, but what we see, and those examples. And my grandma was definitely an example throughout my childhood, but after she passed, learning all these stories about my grandma. And I shared this a lot. I remember going every Monday to my grandma's house and with my siblings and my parents. And she always made sure that she had a table for us with yummy food, and this big old platote de arroz con carne, and frijolitos. And ya acabó, mija. You're done, mija. Yeah, okay. Pick up your plate and go wash it, because la sirvienta no vino ahora. The maid didn't come today. And I remember thinking, right, because it was the same thing every Monday, like, man, this lack of me, like, sirvienta nunca viene, right? The maid is never here when I'm here. And then, like, pretty soon I learned that there was no maid, she wanted to make sure that we learn a lesson, because she could have washed the dishes herself, she was like very fast and she didn't need me to wash the dish, but she was giving me a lesson. And I remember washing the dishes, she used to say this: y donde quiera que vaya, acomídase. Everywhere you go, like, help around. And that opened so much doors for me, learning that concept of that principio valor of acomídase, right? In fact, I was sharing earlier, me acomedí. So I was helping Rosario, my supervisor, with her computer. And because I was a comedida, Maestra Dev saw me and she gave me the opportunity. If I would have kept it to myself and I now offer my help, I wouldn't be here today probably. And that's a big lesson that I always tell my kids. We also practice this here at work with their students. Acomídase, help, leave the place better than how you found it. And this is also a principio of valor that we share in Latino Commission. When you come to a place, leave it better than how you found it. We often have to rent or get these places for our graduations, and sometimes like, okay, my maestro's ready, we're done. And then I go and I'm like, it doesn't seem done. Así estaba. Well, let's leave it better than how it was. Let's clean up and let's que brille, right? So those are the lessons that I believe that if we do that, doors are going to open. And my grandma used to say this: una persona comedida donde quiera cabe. Maestra Deb, I don't know if you can help me with that translation, because I don't really know how to translate that. But yeah.
That's great. So it's really learning, right, to accommodate ourselves, right, to be a service. So wherever we go, and I think that that's part of understanding that we all have a sacred purpose. We're sacred, but we also have that sacred purpose. And when we look through those eyes, right, of sacredness, then we will do things just like you said, that you're going to offer your service. You're going to offer from yourself, you know, not because you're asked, but just because you see the need, you know, and your words really stuck with me, Mia, when you said the needs are not all reflected in the same way. And I think that's such a beautiful, you know, a pearl of wisdom, you know, because needs are all around us. And sometimes when we don't take the time to see, we miss it, right? And I love that story of what you said, you know, because they are different. But when you were able to really consciously look, then you said, okay, so let me help this young man with his cut on his leg. So it wasn't the food, it wasn't the welcoming, it was the caring for his wound, for his cut on his leg that all of a sudden, you know, help him turn a corner in his own life. And you know, just like we said at the very beginning, we are never let down on this show. When we talk about at the beginning of the podcast to say there is going to be something that you will hear in this hour that's going to be those pearls of wisdom for you. I'm sure that you have heard several today on this podcast. And you might find yourself, you know, maybe you're that person right now wondering, man, I don't know if I even want to go into tomorrow. You know what? Let me just say, it is worth it. You're worth it. You are so amazing. And even though you don't see it right at this moment, the value that you carry is greater than your mind can imagine. And maybe you're that person, that worker out there going, oh, you know what, I'm trying to, you know, help this young person. I just don't know how to reach them. Look again and see, because as Maestra Sarahi said, the needs show up in all different ways. But when we're willing to take the time and to look and to be guided by those whispers of our ancestors, that creator, then we're going to see the needs that maybe have been there all along, but all of a sudden our eyes open up. And so as we come to the end of this podcast, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you for spending this time with us. And I know that you have heard something that's going to bring light into your life today. And also so grateful, Mia Sarahi, so grateful to you. I love you. I love your family. What an amazing family you have. And it's no joke when she says they're a musical family, because they're their own band. And so if you want to hear some Mexican music, you know, you can go from Tex-Mex to Norteño to whatever. They can play it. Probably some rock and roll too. You know, but they're an amazing family. And one thing that is definitely a branding of their family is being servants of the community. I just, you know, wish you and your family so much blessings and care and protection, you know, as you continue to serve that youth. And I can tell you, Maestra Susie, that the work of Sarahi and Maria and the whole staff down there has changed in their community, Cutler Rossi. They're known for that because they're beautiful examples of serving, having that heart to be blessings wherever they go. And so for me, it's been, you know, an added benefit, because on a personal level, I know her life story. And so it's been a little extra special for me today on this podcast. And thank you for just giving of your time and joining us here today, Sarahi. Yes, it's just been a great time. I don't know about you, Maestra, but it's been a good time.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just feel so honored. I just wish you were closer so that we could get together more often, and especially for maybe I could have a rain check on that little musical jam. That would be wonderful. I could throw a chancla with you guys. Keep the dancing, keep the music playing, in your heart and soul. And keep sharing your medicina as you go forward, and know that we're always here to support you. Delicious.
So we're signing off today. So this is Maestra Deborah Camarillo from the Bay Area. And so I thank you for joining us. And I'll say bendiciones.
Maestra Susana Armijo, thank you, everyone. Thank you for listening. Looking forward to our next one, and hope you'll be able to join us as well. And thank you so much, Maestra Sarahi, for all your consejos, all your wisdom, and all your devotion.
Bendiciones.
Adios.
For more information about Healing Generations and the Healing Generations Institute, visit nationalcompadresnetwork.org and be sure to subscribe to stay up to date with our new releases.